Welcome to the Mother's Memoirs podcast. I'm Hayley Spooner, and this is the place I invite women to share their deeper, more soulful reflections on the wild ride that is motherhood. Today's guest is a mum of two, a daughter aged 6 and a son 3. Alongside motherhood, she's also a certified holistic sleep coach and the founder of Gentle Sleep Support, a business offering science-based sleep support for children 0 to 7. Please welcome Steph.
Hello.
Hi, Steph. Welcome.
Thank
Let's
you.
start by just introducing yourself, firstly as mum, and then as the creator of your business, Gentle Sleep Support. So over to you.
So I've got two kids. So I've got my eldest she's 6, and I had her when I was 31. And then I've got my son he was just turned 3 and I had him at 34. And yeah, they are magic. They completely changed who I was as a person, changed my identity. So
Oh, wow.
um yeah, it's been a really nice journey to like refigure out who I am. But yeah, definitely me as a mum is very different to me before I was a mum.
Can
Um,
you in a nutshell, like what's the biggest difference? I'm just really intrigued now.
I think I'm a lot more fierce than I was. Like like pre being a mum, I very much had that like gentle side of me, I think. And it still exists, but I think I used to be like soft and gentle, and now I'm like fierce and gentle. Because I don't think those two things are necessarily opposites. I've had to
Mm-hmm.
really like advocate for my kids in ways that I've never thought I would have to. I've never had to advocate for myself even in the ways that I have to advocate for my kids. And that fierceness has just really come out of me. Like my daughter, I'll talk more about this in a minute, but like
So, no, this is really interesting.
she's got a temperament that's like quite sensitive. And so I have to advocate for her in spaces because she's still learning to advocate for herself, right? And I'm like, well, while she's still learning that, I need to do it. And then with my son, when he was born, he was unwell for a really long time. So again, I had to advocate for him for things that, when things were being suggested to me around different medical procedures and whatever, like I had to be his advocate. And I'm like, I've never had to do that. I had to step into a space that just felt really alien to me, but I had to do it with a bunch of fierceness behind me and gentleness. But yeah, it just completely changed who I was as a person, really. But in a really good way, like, yeah, in a really good way.
Mm.
I'm happy. I'm happier being fierce.
I think that's really relatable, Steph, because I would say I find it hard to um, advocate for myself sometimes or speak my true feelings. Um, and it's almost easier for me to speak up sometimes on behalf of my daughter because there's just that passion there, like, no, you will not cross my daughter. That's yeah, it's easier sometimes to do it for the kids than for yourself. So I think that's really relatable.
Definitely.
So
And I think
fierce and gentle sleep support. Okay.
yeah, but I think as well, we grew up in a time, didn't we, of like people pleasing for women or for girls was like the default,
Mhm.
right? And only now I call myself a people pleaser in recovery because I'm like I've shifted away from saying yes and being that person to everyone, and be like actually I'll be fiercely an advocate for my children and for myself when I can.
Mm.
But yeah, it's hard to make that shift, I think. But that has been something that motherhood has helped me shift out of, definitely.
Yeah, I might have to borrow that. People pleaser in recovery. And then tell us a bit about your business and what kind of services you offer and just how did this business, how was it birthed into the world? Where's it all come from?
So I get a bit obsessive about things, right? And when my daughter was born, she, from night one, she just wouldn't sleep or be put down. And I remember I had I had two home births. So I gave birth at home and I gave birth at like 3 in the afternoon. Really lovely. Had a lovely afternoon, ordered a pizza. I was like, I was in my own
Amazing.
bed, you know. It was honestly
Best
great. Like,
best pizza of your life. What did you have?
oh, it was so great. But tried to put her in like, you know, had like a little next to me. Um, no, absolutely not. You're not putting me in here. Why on earth would I be in this tiny space? Would put me on you. So I was like, all right. Me and my husband were like, you know, basically taking it to sleep anyway, just staring at this brand new baby, right? And and but she wouldn't go in it. She wouldn't be put down. And I thought, well, she's brand new, right? She's brand new. It's fine. She'll just lay in the bed next to me. She's basically feeding every half an hour anyway. Like, don't worry about it. Um, and then that brand new baby phase, I just kept being like, yeah, 3 months, she's still brand new. She's still brand new. She could just be in our bed. Nah, it's 6 months, she's still brand new. Like, and but sleep was just really hard with her. She woke so frequently, and I found it really like exhausting, obviously,
Mm,
because you know, I'm talking, and when I say really frequently, she was awake at least every hour and a half, at
mhm,
least.
mhm.
Um, usually more like every hour. And I was so confused, and getting her to sleep was really difficult as well. And I I went looking for, you know, what to do because I was like, what's going on here? Because I'm exhausted and I can't carry on like this. This is
No.
just really hard. And everything I found was stick to a schedule or this routine or do this or leave her to cry, right? That was what the advice at the time was so loudly about. It was like these things are what you need to do. So I tried the schedules, you know, I tried all of that, didn't make a difference. But I knew I was like, I can't leave her to cry because it's too like it has such a visceral impact on me. I was like, I just can't do it. I don't want to do it. So I was like, I'm going to do an even deeper dive into what
Okay.
information I can find. So I was like frantically, you know, Googling basically at 2 a.m. as every sleep deprived mother in the world has ever done. Um, and I came across two people that completely like shifted the way I looked at sleep. The first was someone called Rachel, who runs an account called Hey Sleepy Baby. And the other was a woman called Lindsay Hookway, who she was a pediatric nurse, but she also had done like 20 years of research into sleep, right?
Mm,
Um, and both of them were talking about, you know, the fact that it shouldn't be, you know, leave your baby to cry or, you know, just settle for what you've got. There's a wealth of things in the middle. And I was like, well, this is really interesting. Talk to me about this.
mm,
So I went on to be trained by Lindsay Hookway because I was like, I'm actually really interested in this. I said I get obsessive. It's really true. Like I did a real deep dive into like what it was that she was teaching and all these sorts of things. And she's got this course that she does, and it's 16 modules, right? And you cover things like sleep science, you cover things like temperament, you cover all sorts of different areas of sleep. Because what I learned was that sleep is not just about a routine, right? So when we as adults go to sleep at night, a good bedtime routine is not really going to have that much of an impact. If we've had loads of caffeine, if we've, you know, had loads of stress at work, sleep is holistic and you have to look at it in a holistic way, right?
mm,
So what I really loved was that actually I could do this training, and then rather than just saying to people, here's some off the shelf advice for you, you know, like this is the routine that your baby needs to be in at this age,
mm.
actually, I can work with families, figure out the root cause of what's going on and help them with that. Sometimes families have you know, or babies are having tricky sleep because they have a highly sensitive temperament like my daughter does. Sometimes there's underlying allergies going on.
Okay.
Sometimes they have a big, you know, developmental stage and that's affecting sleep. Sometimes there's something in their sleep environment that is they are finding distracting that is actually really
Mm,
difficult. There are so many different things that can affect sleep that any off the shelf advice, it might work for your baby, but that is pure luck.
Yeah. It's
It
too
is
simplistic, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
about really looking at families. And the reason I built gentle sleep support was because I was like, actually, this is the help that I would have wanted because it's not just about, you know, getting better sleep. That's a huge part of it. But the other bit of it that I really love and my favorite bit about of feedback that I always get from my families is like, yes, sleep is better, but also I feel like I know my kid better. Like I feel like I
Okay.
can
Yeah.
understand
Yeah.
what's going on for them more because when I work with families, we are looking at looking at the different facets of their temperament. We're looking at different things that might be going on underlying that sleep thing because sleep is, bad sleep is often just the symptom. It's not the cause. So finding the cause for families is like, yeah, just it I just love it. And I've been doing it for 5 years now and have supported hundreds of families. And I do, like I work one on one with families, but then I also do things like at the moment, I'm creating a bedtime course, which means that families can just basically they watch a different video every day for 2 weeks, but each one teaches them about a different element of sleep, all of these different things, so that they can actually do their own diagnostic and be like, oh, actually, now
Mm.
I understand how to make bedtime better and things like that. Like, I love just, I don't know, I think because I want to make things accessible for people, right? Like, because we're living in a cost of living crisis, things are
Aren't we
expensive.
just?
And I,
Just
and
filled
I
my
always,
car up, ready for the drive to the hospital, and
well, yeah,
imminent drive to the
exactly.
hospital soon. And yeah,
But yeah, and I'm just like, oh, I just think, you know, it is it's it's life changing when you get better sleep, like it's exhausting parenting in general.
yeah,
So being able to get good sleep and to optimize sleep in that way, my thing is always like, oh, I can't guarantee that your baby's going to
mm,
sleep through by working with me, but what I can guarantee is that we will have done everything to optimize sleep based on their specific sleep needs, based on the stage that they're at, based on what's realistic for you and your family. We are
yeah,
going to optimize sleep to get it to the best that it can be, which I think is all we can do, really.
yeah. It almost sounds like being a sleep detective. You're kind of sleuthing out temperament, environment,
Yeah.
biology, all these different aspects. And I love how much more nuanced that is compared to like a one size fits all schedule, which certainly when I was looking at those sorts of schedules as a new mum, first time around with my daughter, it was just making me feel like there's something wrong with her or there's something wrong with me because well, this isn't working. She's not ticking this box and fitting into this box. So straight off the bat, the fact that you're covering all of these different modules in your training and then applying them when you meet a family, it sounds like really good stuff. So sounds
Yeah.
amazing, Steph.
But that's
Um,
exactly it. It's like pieces of a puzzle you're putting together.
yeah, 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 and certainly when you're trying to solve any challenge in life, and and as an adult, I sort of my mind goes to like you might go to a counselor for an emotional challenge. There's not like this one, you know, one size fits all answer. We do have to delve into lots of different aspects of life to kind of get to the root cause, like you said. So just intuitively, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, Steph, that like when you talk about temperament and your daughter being highly sensitive, I was that highly sensitive kid. I know my mum struggled with various aspects of parenting because it's a really difficult temperament, a very rewarding one at times, when that bond starts to form and you kind of getting into a rhythm, but it was really hard for her. Um,
I
and
think
I
it is
think
really hard. I think my daughter is highly sensitive. I am highly sensitive. And I think there's a lot of things that make parenting a highly sensitive child really difficult.
mm,
Um, because y- it's almost like you don't know what to anticipate, but you almost have to almost be on high alert for everything because there are so many kind of potential triggers
mhm,
for what's happening for that child. But it's also a really amazing gift. I think high sensitivity is such an incredible gift. And do you know about the theory of orchid children? Do you know about
I
that?
do, but I think you should
Talk.
outline it for people listening because it's really, really interesting.
Okay.
Go for it.
So there's a theory, and I can't remember who it's by, which is terrible, but there's
We can
a
look it
there's a
up afterwards and add it to the blurb. Don't worry.
So the orchid theory is around there's three different types of children, so or adults as well, as it covers
Mhm.
everybody. Um, and these are orchids, dandelions, and tulips, right? So the expectation is around that kind of 50% of the population are dandelion kids, and that whatever environment they grow up in, they will be able to grow up and thrive and be absolutely fine, very much like your dandelion.
Mm.
Then you've got your tulips, which is around 40% of the population, who they need, they need good light and they need good soil. But other than that, they're pretty much okay. They need a more structured environment, and not necessarily structured, but more supportive environment than
Yeah,
the dandelions do, to thrive.
yeah.
And then you've
Tailored
got,
to them, tailored to the tulip.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then you've got your orchid, which is 10% of the population who need quite specific, um, a quite specific environment, absolutely tailored to their needs to thrive. Now, that's not saying that orchids will absolutely fall apart in the wrong environment, but to fully thrive, they do need kind of the right environment and the right style of parenting. Um, and yeah, I think it's a lovely theory. And I don't know if I was an orchid, but I find it a really useful way of thinking about my children, because I think that even if I don't have orchids, I'm like, why wouldn't I work to create an environment that is right for them,
Yeah.
um, just in case?
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. It's again very relatable. Definitely feel like an orchid into adulthood over here, and one of the nice things about getting older, I have to say, is that, you start to know your own needs and limits and boundaries, but a little baby doesn't know that, and
Yeah.
they're certainly brand new at 1 month, but they're still pretty new at 1 year old, 2 year old. I mean, compared to me in my 40s, they are still brand new. So
Yeah.
the work you do trying to kind of suss it out on their behalf, I think, yeah, I can see how that would be transformational for families. And I was thinking before we got online today, I was like, I've got my list of questions here, but I just know at some point I'm just going to have to selfishly share my own like sleep journey with my daughter, just probably for like a bit of a therapy session, Steph, because similar to you, she slept a lot in the daytime actually, but at night she was awake kind of it it was between 30 minutes and an hour and a half, so really similar to your first.
Yeah.
I was breastfeeding as well, so you've got baby on the boob, you're wide awake at that point. Um, and I would try and fall asleep with her next to me, kind of breastfeeding, because
Mhm.
that would be the holy grail. Then we're both happy, right? I just couldn't sleep with her there. I just couldn't. I
Yeah.
found the position uncomfortable. I never did find a comfortable side position where I could feed her and sleep.
Mhm.
Um, and I got to about 6 months where we were kind of either co-sleeping in the bed, or we had one of those little next to me cots where she was, just kind of tucked on the end there, and we go back and forward. I got to about 6 months and just fell apart out of absolute exhaustion, desperation. And in that moment, that's when we turned to sleep training.
Mhm.
Um, and it's something I never sort of saw myself doing. It wasn't part of the plan, especially as a sensitive person. When you said a minute ago, you have that visceral reaction to baby crying. I know exactly what you mean. I'd be crying, listening to her crying as we left her for 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, Um, and to this day, I was talking about this whole sort of journey with a friend of mine a while back, and I burst into tears just talking about the memory of this. It was so traumatic for me
Yeah.
to do the sleep training. And I ended up with really mixed feelings about it because, on one hand, it did help. She did eventually start sleeping through. And as a family, we were sort of collectively getting more sleep. On the flip side, it was a horrible process. And it left me with a lot of sort of doubt about whether I was doing the right thing, a lot of kind of anxiety about, is this affecting her in ways that will come out later in life?
Mhm.
Um, and so here I am, pregnant again, about to go, about to embark on this whole sleep journey again. And it feels like such a fork in the road because I can do what I did last time, the sleep training, because it did kind of work in a very simplistic way. It worked. She did
Yeah.
stop sleeping. Or I can try something more gentle,
Hmm.
um, and consider all of these other aspects that your work touches on that I
Hmm.
probably wasn't looking at closely enough first time round, like
Yeah.
temperament, environment, and all of those other good things. So you've caught me at such a crossroads.
Well,
Um,
it's really interesting, like to hear your experience because so I often work with a lot of families who have tried sleep training,
right.
because that's what people see, that is sleep training is the loudest voice in the room when in the
It's the
sleep world in particular.
predominant narrative in my
Absolutely.
world, certainly. I can
Yeah.
only speak for my social media and my peers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really normal for people to try it and see. And for a lot of babies, it does work. But it's really interesting to hear you talk about the experience that it had on you, because I think, you know, one of the things that I actually find really frustrating about sleep training is that it sells itself as a fix for mothers' mental health. And I just
Wow.
think, and it does, like this
Yeah,
is a
no, you're
real
right. It
thing.
does.
And I find that incredibly dishonest because there's lots of things around kind of the cost of sleep training, but so rarely does it talk about the cost to the mother and that visceral impact that you feel when your baby is crying. And anyone that works in the world of, somatic therapy or anything is all about tuning in and listening to your body and what your body is telling you. And when every bone in your body is telling you to pick up your baby and you ignore that, that is so bad for your mental health, like long term, what it does to you when you start ignoring the voice. Like it's really, really bad. And I just think we shouldn't be selling it as a fix for mental health. Yes, some babies get better sleep, and that is absolutely great. Like I think I'm not somebody that's like sleep training should never exist. There are some families for whom it works really, really well. I
Yeah,
offer an alternative to that
yeah,
because there is an alternative. It's not the option should not be sleep train or wait for
yeah,
things to get better. There's a
yes.
whole host of things in
There's the
between
the
that.
messy middle that no one
That
really talks about, and actually
Yeah,
that's where you have found gold for so many families.
yeah, absolutely. But I just think like, yeah, I wouldn't want you to feel guilty about it because I also think, and I say this to a lot of the families that I work with, like you are um like that is not one like that tiny bit of your relationship with your child
Mm.
is such few instances in comparison to a lifetime of
Mhm.
responsiveness and all those other
Mhm.
things. So I think that when people, say sleep training is always bad and you can't come back from that, and this is the damage it does to the baby, it's like, well, actually, that's an incredibly narrow-minded view of things because an attachment relationship is not solely formed on single instances excuse me, on
Yeah.
single instances. An
Yeah.
attachment relationship is formed on those multiple times of, repeated reassurance and all the other things that you do that are loving and caring. And, I've seen you with your daughter, and you can see how much of a loving relationship the two of you have.
Oh, thank you.
Um, I think, yeah,
Yeah. I love how you've framed that whole idea of, sleep training can actually impact parents' mental health. And that was certainly my experience. The fact that, 2.5 years down the line, she sleeps now most of the time. The fact that 2.5 years down the line, just telling a friend about it, I burst into tears. That is proof to me how much the body, you talk about somatic viewpoints, how much my body has held on to that experience of sleep training, and was deeply affected by it. So I like that you've touched on that. And I would even add, Steph, that sleep training or the whole debate around sleep and how to approach it is perhaps a more accurate way of putting it. It actually had a cost on my relationship with my husband, because
hmm
I was trying to follow my instinct, which was to pick up that little crying baby. But husband was more, Ben, he has a name. Ben was more, I guess, convinced and comfortable with the predominant narrative. Now, that's not to say I'm right, he's wrong, but I'm the one with the instinct that has to then go against the instinct to do the sleep training.
yeah,
Found it a lot easier to kind of leave my daughter for, you build up the minutes gradually, don't you, in the one we were doing. He found that a lot easier. Um, and so this real tension started to creep into our relationship. At 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, we'd be arguing about
yeah,
what do we do with this little baby. So then you wake up feeling guilty. Oh my God, I've argued in front of this newborn baby. What
yeah.
kind of mother am I? So you get guilt and confusion and anxiety. It is
Yeah.
just,
And
for some
and
recipes, for some families, it's a recipe for disaster.
absolutely. And the thing, I think if anyone tells you that, you know, a new baby and their lack of sleep is not going to impact your relationship, they're lying. It is everybody.
Yeah,
And whether that's, but however you view that, right? And so I bed shared with both my children for years.
yeah,
And because that's what worked for us. So
yeah,
I could sleep feeding. So I was like, this gets me the most sleep. I'm
yeah,
not going to stress about it. I'm just, I'm going to do what's working. I've set up my bed safely, so I know how to have my children safe in my bed. This
yeah,
is what we're going to do. And I but second time round, the first time round, my husband was also in the bed. Second time round, immediately I was like, get out of the bed. You sleep in another room now. Like you're not coming in here. But
You're not welcome anymore.
yeah, but like first time round, when we were first time parents, I think that would have been like an issue if I'd kicked him out of the bed and be like, no, you're not sleeping in here anymore, like whereas this time round, I think we really recognized we're in a season that
Mhm.
is very short
Yeah,
and it doesn't really make any difference.
yeah, yeah,
Like it's absolutely fine. Um, and
yeah.
people really obsess about this thing about, not sleeping in a bed with your husband. I'm like, he also snores. It's annoying. Like,
Well, I'm laughing because throughout this pregnancy, the kind
mm,
of latter half of it, Ben has decided to take himself off to the other room. So we're not sharing a bed at the moment because I'm snoring. The
yeah,
pregnancy is making me snore like a beast. And first time round, we were trying to do everything together, um, spend the pregnancy kind of sharing the bed as normal. When Georgia was born, we were both kind of there. And ultimately, it didn't work because someone needs to get sleep at some point. So this time around, we've been much more pragmatic. We're both getting a decent enough night's sleep during the pregnancy because we know what's about to come.
yeah,
We need all the sleep we can bank.
yeah,
So yeah, I think you get a little bit more.
yeah.
You follow
But I
your own gut more, don't you, with each
definitely,
child?
but also I think there's two things I want to say about that. Firstly, is with the relationships, the thing that I found has been the most useful, um, like question was, does this feel fair?
Mm.
Because every single time it was like, so first time round, I basically was like, I'm not really going to do any cooking or cleaning. I was like, I'm
Sounds
doing
fair to me.
I was like, I'm doing all of the nights. I'm doing all of the mental load. You never have to worry about, does she have clothes that fit? What's the registration forms for the nursery that we don't have to think about until next year anyway? Like I'm doing all of
Mhm.
that. You are getting a full night's sleep.
Mm.
You are, like you can do the cooking and cleaning, like, and I think, does this feel fair? And that's something our children are now 6 and 3, and we're still asking the question, does this feel fair? We basically have a chat at least once a month where we're like, right, what's going on? What feels fair? What doesn't feel fair?
Yeah.
Just to kind of reassess and reevaluate. Um, but the other thing that I wanted to say was, you were talking about your baby coming and how are you going to navigate that because you know what's coming. I had a massive surprise with my second one because he slept. My first didn't sleep, and my second one, he just slept and it was easy. And I
Wow.
had him in my bed, but because, we'd had all the medical issues and stuff, I was like, I actually just feel safer with him literally right there.
Yeah.
Um, but like it was it he always has slept really well. Like,
And
so I
it
just
just
think you
goes
don't
to
know what you're gonna
show,
get. You
yeah,
don't know what you're gonna get. You
it's
might get a
such
unicorn.
proof that, temperament is such a huge part of it. And yeah, I'll let you know, Steph, what happens
Yeah.
to number two, whether he's nice and chilled out or if he's another crazy one. Um, right, let's change gears a little bit. We're obviously here today under the banner of Mother's Memoirs. So I want you to get your mother and baby book. Oops.
Got
There
it
we
here.
go. Lovely, thank you. And what I always like to do with the guests is just flick randomly through,
Okay.
see where you land.
Do you want to say
Um,
stop? Is that fun?
I will say stop.
Okay.
Well, I mean, you could just, or if there's a page you're just drawn to, just go for it. We're just going to find a page at random. And while you're doing that, I'll just explain what this book is. So many of us have like a baby book where we record our baby's milestones, first word and first steps and all of that gorgeous, lovely stuff. And certainly I've got one of them for my children. But what I really found in that first year to 18 months, well, probably forever more, is that for me, I needed a place to journal my experience of becoming a mum because it was so profoundly life changing. um, in all sorts of ways, like incredibly joyful, positive, life affirming ways, and also just like huge challenges as well. You're really faced with aspects of yourself, or at least I
Yeah.
was. But it helps to have a place to kind of write it out and journal it out. So, what started as just a plain notebook gradually turned into this mother and baby book. And my hope is that at the very least it's a safe place where mums can just write freely about how they're feeling. But beyond that, I'd love mums to hand this down to their children because one of the lovely things about my relationship with my mum, she's always been very honest with me about motherhood,
Mm.
warts and all, and she loved being a mother. And she's the first one to say for her it was, one of the most amazing things she's ever done in her life. But she's also very honest and candid and tells me that, she struggled with postpartum depression and a highly sensitive child to deal with. So I feel I've been given that like wisdom from my mum. And I think so many new mums just aren't given that context or like history, family history from
Yeah.
their own mum. So that's a really long-winded way of saying this is a place to write all about becoming a mum, just for yourself or to hand it down if you wish. Have you
No,
found?
I love it because I've never seen anything like this. Like, and I
Okay.
think we are in we are in a like era of now being like actually self-reflection is so important. So many of us are in therapy, like,
Yeah.
and it's really, really good. And I think having something like this where you can actually properly reflect, like self-reflect, as well as, capturing things for your children as well. Like I think it's a really magical gift you've put out there, Hayley. I think
Oh,
it's
thank
lovely.
you. Thank
Um,
you, Steph. When I first made it, I hadn't seen anything like it. I think a few more things that are similar are starting to crop up, which I think is actually great. I just think it shows there's something in the air at the moment. Motherhood
yeah,
is having a revival, and matrescence and that process of becoming is finally in the spotlight more and
yeah,
more, and about time.
yeah, absolutely.
So, without further ado, what have you landed on there, Steph? What page number?
93.
93.
And I've gone, it's how I try to
Okay.
show my love.
Oh, lovely. How I try to show my love. So each page has a kind of title and then a couple of little prompts underneath. So, how I try to show my love, how I slow down for you, what I do to take care of your feelings, how I try to give you a strong start in life. I mean, I feel like your entire business is all about that. What I do to repair our bond if I mess up, how I love you when no one else is watching, what I notice about you that others might not. So don't feel that you have to answer all of these, Steph, but just if anything comes to mind on these topics, just please share with us.
I I mean, I think the reason I've been really drawn to this one is because I think the way in which I parent, particularly my daughter, is really different actually from how I was parented. Because I think like when there's the prompt about like what do I do to take care of your feelings, I'm very much a like hold space for any feelings, right? Any feelings are welcome. You feel angry, you feel upset, you feel, any of these things. And with my, you know, little firework, highly sensitive kid, like those feelings are quite explosive and they're quite big a lot of the time.
Mm.
And I
You'd fit right
really,
in round my house, Steph.
but I think like I am so I'm so conscious of trying to make sure that all of those feelings are welcome. There's not necessarily healthy expressions of all of those feelings, like hitting your brother's not okay, like we hold boundaries,
Yeah,
but I do help her. So, like, for example, we've got a feelings book by, have you read it by Molly Potter?
I've seen it. Yes,
It's
the
brilliant.
George's Little Preschool has that book.
Yeah, it's really, really good because on each page it's like when I'm feeling angry, I can. And then there's like 8 little different illustrations on each different emotion of like things that you can do when you're angry. And it's like you can stomp your feet, you can draw some clouds and make the anger float away, and all these different things, right? Um, and I just want my kids to feel like whatever I'm feeling, even if I don't want to show it to the outside world, because my daughter already has got some sort of people pleasing tendencies, which I'm trying to get rid of. But even if I don't want to show it to the outside world, my feelings are always safe with my mum. Like I can
Mm.
be whoever I need to be right now in this moment with my mum. Like I want to be that like landing space for my kids because
Mm.
I like, my mum like love her heart. Like she didn't know how to like parent a highly sensitive child, right? So, if I was crying or upset, like her automatic thing would be to distract me with something else. Now, I think distraction is a really useful tool at certain times. I've had kids crying at weddings, like I know distraction is needed sometimes, but generally I'm like, actually, it's all right if you feel your feelings and just know that I'm here and I'm going to help you see it through them because I think I don't want my kids to grow up with that feeling of this is a really big feeling and it's scary. My mum can't cope with this feeling. Like, it's okay that I feel like this.
Mm.
And again, I was brought up with this idea of like anger is a useless emotion. But in fact, I'm like the opposite is really true because anger is where like, your voice starts to come from and your drive and all of these things. And I'm like, oh yeah, anger is actually great to have. And sometimes I'm like, as women, we're not angry enough.
Mm.
We're not angry enough to,
It's our sign, isn't it, that there's a boundary, there's a hard line there,
yeah,
because I can't
exactly.
help but feel the fire. coming out.
Exactly. So I really love that. I really love what do I do to take care of your feelings.
Lovely.
Um, Most of the time it is, I'm trying to co-regulate with my kids, and like a lot of the time I just am quiet and I just sit and either hold them if they want to be held, and if they don't want to be held, then I just sit next to them
Hmm. Hmm.
and in silence. And a lot of the times, my family like are quite uncomfortable with tears generally, and they'll want to like feel the silence, and I'm like, it's all right, we're just going to sit in the quiet and I'm here when you need me. Like, and I think that presence and that holding space is a lot of what I would have needed as a kid and what my kids, often need. And the thing is, I think as well, nothing's right all the time, like with kids, especially. Like how my daughter will respond to me being silent next to her one day, the next day is not at all what she wants. And she
Okay.
needs a hug, she needs a
Right.
snack, she needs a drink, she needs to be held, whatever it is,
Mm.
like it will change. But I think, yeah, recognizing that and just being like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. But no, I love that one.
Thank you,
And
Steph. That's lovely. So a
that's
big part of how you show your love, it sounds like, is just presence, just your pure presence for whatever is coming up in the moment, which I just want to say is not an easy thing to achieve at all.
no.
Um, but it's a really amazing goal to have, and I admire that goal.
Thank you. And it's not, I get it wrong all the time. Everyone does, right? Like, I think it's really hard to just,
Yeah.
I'm sounding like I'm like Mrs. Calm. I'm not like, I'm not at all. And I think I put a lot of work into like regulating my own nervous system because otherwise I can't regulate theirs, like,
Mm.
so I think it's really important to do things for yourself as
Yeah.
well
Yeah.
because you can't pour from an empty cup.
Absolutely. And especially so for the mums that don't have the village, which is so many, so
Yeah.
many mums in today's times. And as you're talking, it's making me think of my fantasy of what I'd be like as a mum before becoming a mum. I'm not going to lie, Steph, I'd see mums sometimes on the bus, snapping at their kids or on their mobile phone, ignoring their kids. And I used to judge and think, I'd never do that. Never do that. And then when you become a mum, it is so humbling. Because what I didn't appreciate is they've probably tried to be present and alert for 10 hours already, and just that 20-minute bus ride where the kid happens to be content looking out the window and they can just check a message or Google something or zone
Yeah.
out, you know,
Yeah.
it's probably like just some precious minutes in their day. So I definitely don't judge anymore.
But I think
Um,
as well, like we are, we're very much, um, yeah, like I think there's this idea of like a perfect mother, but ultimately, good enough is good enough,
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah. Well, that's kind of where I was going to take this, because I think, there was my idea of what it would feel like and be like to be a mum, and how bloody great I'd be. Because I think I'm a sensitive, tuned in person, and I want to do the right thing. The biggest journey for me, and sleep was one of the most huge parts of this. The biggest sort of journey for me becoming a mum was that I needed to try and regulate myself more, because otherwise I was completely ineffective. And I haven't solved this, Steph. This is ongoing. I think until my daughter was born, I could kind of go through life with mental health ups and downs and peaks and valleys. And it affected me and probably my partner. But there were no kids involved. So if I was having a crappy day, it was me that was suffering ultimately.
mhm.
Now children are in the picture. There's more importance on being a bit more calm and steady. And, obviously we're all only human. We're going to have days when we're grumpy and snappy and all the rest of it. But I feel it's more important now for me to try and be more on an even keel. And as a sensitive person, as a bit of an anxious person, it's really hard. It's really difficult. And so that's my kind of like goal in life,
Mhm.
just to kind of find a bit more calm. And
Yeah.
another kind of driving force behind the journal, because
Hmm.
everyone responds to different things. For some people, just going for a walk or a run is the thing that calms them down. For me, with a very overactive mind, walk and a run is great, but actually writing and trying to get to the bottom of webs of thoughts in my head, when I get there and I write it down and I have like a bit of an aha moment, oh, it's very calming and grounding and cathartic. So, different strokes for different folks, but
Yeah, but
I
that's so
certainly
good
see
that
this
you've,
as a container for all of that stuff that
yeah.
whirls around.
Well, I love that you've like recognized that about yourself in terms of what you like really grounds you. Like, I think
It
that's
took 40
so,
years, Steph. 40 years.
yeah. I mean, you got there. But yeah, but I think also we, you know, we have different like phases of life where
Mm,
different things will ground us,
mm,
like
mm.
I'm very much in the mo at the moment I'm like in a real connection bit where I'm just wanting to be with other people all the time, which I think my husband's finding a bit annoying to be honest. But I'm just like I just want to see people and hang out with people, and that's what's really I'm finding is really like helping me
Yeah.
be more
Topping you
me.
up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lovely. Steph, before we wrap this up, I just want to kind of touch on, um, if there was one bit of sleep advice that you could hand down to your children if they become parents one day, or kind of hand down to our listeners, just one golden bit of sleep advice, what would that be? It might be a bit tricky given that you've already said there's so many layers to sleep, but I'm going to put you on the spot anyway.
No, that's all right. I think it would be to trust your instincts and shut out the noise,
Mm,
because our bodies know what to do. Like we have been, supporting our children to sleep for millennia.
mm.
And, you know, like when there were cave people, um, they absolutely weren't sleep training their babies,
No,
because
I
they,
doubt they were doing the old, what's it called, the Ferber method.
yeah,
Oh.
but it's like, if you trust your instincts and do what feels right for you, that is never gonna feel later down the line like something you shouldn't have done. But also, I think like if you want to hold your baby while they nap, you're never, ever, ever gonna get to the end of your life. Not a single person has got to the end of their life and gone, I wish I held my baby less.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah,
hold your babies, hold them.
yeah, yeah. That's lovely stuff. That's lovely. And how would you like your children to most remember you? If you were to ever write a memoir, how do you
I
want to be remembered as a mum?
My favorite thing with my kids is making them laugh.
I,
Like
I had a feeling that you were going to say something like that.
I just I want my kids to know that I really enjoyed being their mum. Like
Mm,
it's not even like, you know, like yes, they're really loved, obviously, but like I just want them to know that I actually just really enjoyed their company. Like genuinely, I just if you could give me two people to hang out with all day, I
mm,
would be like, I would choose my children. I would absolutely choose my children because they, as tiring as it is, as long as the days are sometimes as frustrating as it can be, I just, there are so many moments of the day where I'm genuinely like, I love that you've said that thing, or tell me more about what you're drawing. That is so interesting. Like, I just enjoy them, you know?
it's lovely, Steph. That's really lovely. And it's a really nice sort of moment to end on, I think. That's just that joy of parenthood and joy of childhood, and you're very good at like silly little voices and games and bringing
Oh,
out the
yeah.
inner child. That's how I always remember you. So for a
I
bit of
don't.
For a bit of
I don't
context
think
for
I
listeners, I knew Steph when we were both children because of our like family friends connection, and then reconnected just recently as adults. But my memory of Steph is your laugh, your raucous laugh, and just
that's what everyone says.
the fun that you brought to the party. So that's a
I just
really
think I never really
lovely.
grew up. I didn't grow
Good
up.
for
I was like,
you.
I was like,
Good
I,
for
I
you.
just want to play. I went to uni and did drama because I was like, I just want to keep playing. I don't
Well,
want
that says it all, Steph. All right.
to.
Thank you so much for
No.
taking a whole hour today to talk to me. I really, really appreciate it. How can people find you if they want to find out more about gentle sleep support?
So I'm on Instagram. It's just at Gentle Sleep Support, all one word. I've also got a website which is gentlesleepsupport.com. Um, and yeah, reach out on Instagram. I'm always up for a chat in DMs, so always come say hi.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Steph.
Thanks very much for having me.
Thank you.
Speak to you soon. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Mother's Memoirs podcast. If you want to get your hands on the Mother and Baby book by me, Hayley Spooner, visit Amazon or go to mothersmemoirs.com to check out the other work we do. Thank you.